Ukrainian President Zelenskyy is in Washington trying to make his case to American lawmakers to approve funding for his country amid its war with Russia. President Biden will host his Ukrainian counterpart at the White House this afternoon to discuss the war and the more than $60 billion aid request for Ukraine. The administration is asking Congress for the money as part of a larger supplemental national security funding package. But the request has stalled in a debate over border security and U.S. immigration policy. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us now. Weijia, great to see you. How is Zelensky's visit to the Hill seen by the White House as they're trying to push for Ukraine funding?
Meg, it's great to be with you. It's actually the White House and President Biden who invited Zelenskyy here to Washington. So certainly they are hopeful that it's going to make an impact. But some Republican senators have already said publicly that they don't think it's going to change any minds. And that's because the issue is not necessarily whether, the U.S. should continue to fund Ukraine. But as you alluded to, the issue is about the immigration and border policies that Republicans have now attached to this funding. And so because the president bundled money together for immigration and other national security priorities, including Ukraine, Israel, and countries in the Indo-Pacific, Republicans said, hey, look, it's the White House that opened up this debate on immigration. And so while they want sweeping policy reforms, the White House says we really should be focusing on Ukraine funding. So that is the holdup here, Meg, that is now a hurdle that they can't seem to cross over. So the White House is hoping that a direct plea from Zelenskyy today is going to make a difference. And we just heard from Senator Chuck Schumer, who said it was a very productive meeting. He said that Ukraine needs this money quickly. And he also said that Zelenskyy sort of laid out exactly what he needs the money to do, and that if he gets that money, he believes Ukraine can win the war. And so we'll see if it makes any impact. But as of right now, negotiators don't believe there's going to be any breakthrough this week, at least. But there's still a little bit of time left before the end of the year.
A little bit of time, that's right. President Biden has said he's willing to compromise to get his funding request approved. What is the administration willing to forego in this deal?
Well, again, this is confusing a little bit because the actual deal itself is about the $110 billion national security package that includes all sorts of priorities. And so the White House has not said what they're willing to concede on that, even though the president has said, as an example, he would veto any bill that was for Israel aid only. So the question now is what the administration is willing to concede when it comes to immigration policies. And there is not much that it is, because they don't believe they should be having this conversation to begin with. At the same time, there have been senior administration officials who say that the president is open to having this discussion because of the critical need for Ukraine funding. However, they're not sharing those details in public, so it's hard to say exactly what they're willing to give up. But certainly they do not have an agreement yet by any means.
Weijia, are they sharing what else they are planning on discussing in addition to the aid package?
I'm sorry, are they
sharing what President Biden and Zelenskyy are expected to discuss in addition to the aid?
Yeah, I think Zelenskyy will lay out exactly what he did on Capitol Hill for President Biden, which is what he has already done with the more than $100 billion the U.S. has provided already to Ukraine, and how he plans to utilize another tranche of money. Because one question that he faces from Republicans is exactly how he would use that to not only sustain the war, which is what he's been doing since Russia invaded last year, but to win the war. And so the president expects to get an entire briefing from him on his military operations and what comes ahead, and specifically what more he wants in terms of weapons and military equipment, which Zelenskyy has made pretty clear. But they will have that discussion in addition to the aid that is being held up on Capitol Hill.
All eyes on the White House on this big meeting today. Weijia Jiang, thank you.
You're welcome.
CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins us now from Capitol Hill with more. Nikole, while Ukrainian President Zelenskyy pleads for more support on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are looking to tie together Ukrainian and other foreign aid with border funding. Why is a deal hitting roadblocks here?
Well, it's hitting roadblocks because there have been a lot of back and forth negotiations over what this package should look like. And, you know, for Republicans who are pushing for border security, they want to see stricter measures in place. And that just simply isn't flying with many Democrats. And right now, time really is of the essence, as we know. And as you have been reporting, President Zelenskyy just met with members of congressional leadership, both in the Senate and in the House. He just wrapped up a meeting with Speaker Mike Johnson, who once again reiterated the importance of including border security in any type of Ukraine funding package. Take a listen.
People stand for freedom, and they're on the right side of this fight. I have asked the White House since the day that I was handed the gavel as Speaker for clarity. We need a clear articulation of the strategy to allow Ukraine to win. And thus far, their responses have been insufficient. They have not provided us the clarity and the detail that we requested over and over since literally 24 hours after I was handed the gavel as Speaker of the House. And so what the Biden administration seems to be asking for is billions of additional dollars with no appropriate oversight, no clear strategy to win, and none of the answers that I think the American people are owed. I have also made very
So that, in essence, Meg, is the sticking point for people like Speaker Johnson, just needing more clarity on the plan, on the pathway forward in Ukraine, and, you know, having more checks and balances in place with respect to funding. Now, the Speaker did not take any questions, but certainly because he met with the President of Ukraine, the obvious question is whether or not he got that clarity from President Zelenskyy. So that is something, obviously, we'd like to ask of him going forward. But, you know, now, of course, he takes his message to the White House, but as far as funding is concerned, it really is in Congress's hands.
All right, we'll have to wait and see on that. We know you'll be asking those questions. Meanwhile, House Republicans are also busy with a potential impeachment inquiry against President Biden. They've yet to produce any substantial evidence that he profited off of policy decisions when he was vice president. Where does that inquiry stand now?
Well, it is moving forward pretty much full steam ahead. You have the Rules Committee, which is meeting on the measure that will be put forth on the House floor, which we expect to happen as soon as this week. But Republicans really want to take this step. They believe it's a natural step forward, as they have been conducting this inquiry for several weeks now across 3 different committees. And so by having this formal vote, they believe that it will allow them even additional powers, particularly around the issues of subpoenas, to be able to investigate, to be able to press forward, although Democrats remain unconvinced and don't think there's enough substantial evidence, which is why this will likely be a party line vote this week.
And Nikole, I'm sure you've heard the White House is calling it a stunt, while dozens of GOP lawmakers are doubtful about the investigation. Do Republicans have the votes?
Well, again, I think it remains to be seen, but for the most part, it seems like they will be able to muster the votes and that they will kind of vote in lockstep here, absent maybe 1 or 2 members who disagree with this probe. But for the most part, we have heard consistently time and again that they believe that this process should go forward, including Speaker Johnson, who does believe that this is a necessary step worth taking.
All right, Nikole Killion, thank you so much.
You bet.